Have you ever consumed a piece of media and got gut punched because of the emotion? I definitely have. Movies like Interstellar, Barbie, and A Silent Voice made me sob. And duh, these movies are supposed to make you cry. That's the director's intent, to invoke strong emotions within you. But what about in video games, where you make the choices? Why, in some games, do I at least get the same strong feelings as I do when watching an emotional film? I've thought about this for a long time, like a long time, and I've come to the conclusion that there is one major factor to it: music. And before I delve into why music upholds video games, here are my credentials. Let's start with the basics. Mood. And yes, I'm sorry, but we will have to go into a bit of music theory. I know, you didn't click this video to get a lecture, but it's necessary to do this. So, let's begin. The main things that contribute to the mood of a piece are tempo and key signature. Tempo is pretty easy to explain. Tempo is the speed at which the piece is played. Slower tempos will have a more mellow and slow sound, while faster tempos will be more fierce. Key signature indicates how the notes should be played throughout the pieces, as in flat, natural, or sharp. There are two main types of key signatures, major and minor. Each note has their own major and minor scale. The difference between a major and minor scale is that in a minor scale, the third interval note is lowered half a step, or flattened. This makes the key sound quote-unquote wrong and not right. For every major key, there is a relative minor key, which means that they share the same key signature. For example, C major and A minor have the same key signature, which is no sharps and no flats. This is where it gets a bit complicated. If you are unsure what key the piece is in, but know the key signature, again following the example of no sharps, no flats, you can look at the end of the piece. A lot of the time, minor keys will end with the note that the key signature is in, so a piece in A minor would end in A. While playing a piece, you can change the way a note is supposed to be played with an accidental. An accidental changes the pitch of a note either up or down. It only applies to that note and any of the same note in that measure. For example, following the C major, there are no flats or sharps. But if I want to make the F natural sound different, I would add an accidental. in this case I'll choose a sharp, to change its pitch by a half step without having to change the whole key signature. Again, this is pretty basic when it comes to key signatures, but it gets a lot more complicated, but I won't get into that. But what does this have to do with mood in music? Well, when you add an accidental in major or minor keys, it changes the feeling of the piece. I'm gonna use two examples here. For example, Pas de deux from Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker is in G major and has an andante tempo. Andante means moderately slow. This would mean that generally the vibe or feeling of the piece would be joyful, but slow and pleasant. But there are a ton of accidentals in the piece, making it sound much more tragic than the key signature implies. And of course, this evokes feeling, as Pas de deux is considered the most emotional piece within the Nutcracker. And when you learn the story behind it, it makes sense. Tchaikovsky, while writing the Nutcracker, had a little sister, Alexandra, who tragically died. The grief of his loss seeped into his composing, and the otherwise cheerful major key piece was now melancholy. Compare that to the Act 1 Kitri variation from Don Quixote, composed by Ludwig Minkus. This piece is in D major. The major has two sharps already in the key signature, F sharp and C sharp. The piece is also allegro vivace, a very fast-paced tempo. Along with this, there are few accidentals, and the ones that are there are within a chromatic scale, which is a scale that goes up by half steps instead of whole steps. I know, I'm sorry, it's a lot. Stick with me here. So, this piece gives the feeling of power, but also a light cheer. This is Kitri's, the character's, own variation, her solo, and she wants to show it off. Then the music only makes her shine brighter. Okay, are we all still here? Because I am done talking about ballet and music theory. Congrats! You made it through the official Tea Time Basic Music Theory class. Here is your official certificate. Anyway, video games. Most video games have music within them, but a lot of the time it's only for atmospheric purposes. This is in no way a bad thing. I consistently praise games like Genshin Impact for having a beautiful soundtrack. Most of it, however, is only for idle background music or fighting music. What I want to talk about are more specific pieces in games that made me feel things and try to explain why they do. I'm gonna turn this into a series where each video I talk about a different piece from each video game. And so today we are going to start with Sayo-Nara, composed by Dan Salvato. Released in 2017, Doki Doki Literature Club is a visual novel psychological horror game. Music plays throughout the whole game, but one piece in particular really stands out. At the end of the first quote-unquote act, for lack of better words, Sayori, the main character's childhood friend who invited him to the literature club, did not arrive at school for the club fair. This is the first time in the game where there is complete silence. As he talks to Monica, the club leader, he gets a sudden urge to go check on Sayori, especially after their heartfelt conversation the day prior. As a visual novel, the game is text-driven, and when MC walks into Sayori's house to find her, only the text box is visual, with no other accompanying background or music. Again, silence. Finally getting to Sayori's room, the text box reads, quote, "I gently opened the door." But before the player can even click next for the text, they are cut off by sudden music, that of Sayo-Nara, and the scene of Sayori, hanging, dead. The music is powerful, scary, and rich in contradictions. Sayo-Nara, despite being a death piece, is in the key of C major, and is actually a played-on and distorted version of the main theme, Doki Doki Literature Club, also in C major. Besides being distorted, the main difference between the two pieces are the instruments. The title piece uses many instruments, which are mostly high register, as in they play higher pitches. Some of these include a xylophone, a viola, and a piano. But there are a lot of instruments, and the piece has an upbeat tempo at 110 beats per minute, BPM. Sayo-Nara, on the other hand, only seems to contain 3 instruments, a distorted synthesizer, a distorted voice-like instrument, And the piano. The tempo is in cut time at 62 BPM. With the player already familiar with the main theme at this point, it throws them for a loop, and with the accompanying image, it's only more tragic. The player knows that something is wrong. This shouldn't be happening. This game isn't scary, it's just a cute little dating sim like visual novel about a literature club. Or so they thought. The music has only been cheerful and a bit chaotic up to this point. And now this? This piece is my favorite from the soundtrack. It gives the sound of helplessness with the similar tune of the theme but messed up, and the player cannot do anything to fix it. Can't go back to their older saves, can't restart the day, but can only watch and listen as they see Sayori hang there lifeless. The title, as well, is a play on the word Sayo-Nara, which means goodbye in Japanese. This is the only time Sayo-Nara is ever played. Anytime I replay this moment, I tear up, despite knowing what will happen, simply because the piece is so powerful.